We're now joined by Denny Strickland. How are you today?
Jay, thanks for having me.
Oh, it's so good to see you. Been checking out the music. I know you're building up for an incredible release here. Why don't you give us a little bit of backstory? You know, growing up, how did you fall in love with music? Who's some of the first artists you heard that really, you know, did it for you? And what gravitated to you actually picking up an instrument or singing?
Well, I got to give it to the man, George Strait. That was one of my first influences growing up. And I came from a small town in Jonesboro, Arkansas. And my parents, you know, I was listening to what they listened to. So that was one of the big ones, you know, for me.
So you had a record collection, or you listen to the radio?
I was all over the place. I never had a collection. I just had whatever I had.
Mm-hmm.
And a friend of mine, which ended up becoming my manager, he had his taste, and we shared taste. You know, on the way over here, we were listening to something that was both of our favorites growing up.
Yeah.
And that's it. Yeah.
It's amazing how you listen to music from the past and it almost brings you back to that time when you fell in love with it or you first heard it. It's kind of, you know, it gives you that date stamp, you know, of your soundtrack to your life. That was high school, or that was, you know, coming out of, you know, something.
Most definitely. I mean, it makes me think about exactly where I was when I heard that. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. And you can just change the channel.
Yeah. Now, what was it about George Strait's songs or his voice that really spoke to you?
Well, you know, he had one of those voices that was easy to sing along to. And his songs were so relatable. And me having a horse background, that was just another justification that, you know, it was what I was doing. Because I had horses.
Yeah.
So my love of horses really got me into where I'm at now with the music.
So it felt like he could have been your friend or your uncle or somebody down the street.
Yeah, he could be an uncle, Uncle George. Yeah.
Just totally relatable.
For sure.
That's beautiful. Now, when you started picking up the guitar and singing yourself, how did you gravitate towards writing your own songs? What was that process like?
Well, you know, writing songs, that's such a personal thing, and that's something I didn't acquire till really out of high school. And my first manager was the upright bassist for Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
And I ended up losing him back in 2011. And that really inspired, I mean, I got so emotional. And that was the first encounter of songwriting really for me. And now I'm working on a full album. I'm doing more than half of the writing. And you can see that my vision, or my inspiration's changed. You know, of course, you're always changing and molding to your surroundings. But yeah, writing, that was the first experience or first emotion that I was able to put on paper.
Well, I know it's an ongoing process. You know, songwriting is a craft that you never stop working on, and the greats, you know, are still working on their craft, you know. Tell us about, you know, meeting Marshall Grant. He's the bass player for Johnny Cash, you mentioned, and, you know, what was that chance meeting like, and how did it turn into the relationship and the mentorship?
I tell you, it makes the hairs on my arm stand up. I mean, it was, I felt like it was meant to be. I feel like we're all on Earth for a reason, and things happen, you know, for a reason. But meeting him for the first time was at a horse show. We both had a love of horses. And he was also a fan of George Strait. Yeah. And knew the guy. And but that encounter was the foundation of my, what I call now a career. I'm trying, you know, it's amazing. I love what I do.
So he kind of took you under his wing and gave you the tips and advice, and
yeah, he really was like an uncle or a grandfather in a way. Just had that, you know, that power, so to speak, you know, to give good direction. I'm thinking because, you know, Johnny, there was a lot of direction, I'm sure, but with them, you know, I mean, they had such a good relationship, and I know I've reminded him a lot of Cash and Elvis, and just those people that were around them during their heyday.
Yeah. And what is it else about you think why he went out of his way to give you that helping hand?
I gave him a demo, and I actually recorded one of George's songs. It was The Chair, and it knocked him out. He really enjoyed it. He called his wife out, but you know, it wasn't the fact that I sound like George by no means. It's just it was a sound that was different, and how I delivered it, he thought was, you know, very marketable and magical. You know, it was just a special thing that he knew it was something, and we went from there.
That's amazing. Well, I know it's all about passing the torch, and I know he passed the torch to you, and I'm sure that's something back of your mind to be able to give back to other, you know, songwriters or singers coming up, however you can, and help the community and all that.
Well, I tell you what, you do what you're feeling, you know, and trust your first instinct. You know, it's like anything, subconsciously or just the first time you pick a book up or whatever. I mean, go with your gut. I mean, just like taking pictures earlier, we were doing a shoot, and usually your first pose is going to work, you know. And then when you think about it, it doesn't. So do what feels natural.
Can't overthink it.
Yeah, for sure.
That's amazing. Well, now talk about the songs. I know "We Don't Sleep" is your single. Talk a little bit about you know, coming up with some of your own songs. You know, what songs are you most excited about, and give us a little backstory to, you know, the lyrics or the feeling behind those.
Well, I've got a lot of heart in this album. I mean, it's a piece of me. It's a journey. I take you on a journey, and the name of the album I'm working on is California Dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
And ironically, here we are in California. The first song on the track, which I'm thinking, I haven't really got the order, but I'm feeling like California Dreaming is going to be the first track. And there's a muse there. I've said her name, I haven't said her name, but it's very evident in my music who I'm talking to, I think, if she ever heard the work. And she's a singer herself. I'll just have to leave it to you guys to figure out who she is, but it's definitely fueled the fire. And it's a fire. I mean, I feel really strong about it. I've burnt myself a few times.
Mm-hmm. Well, why is it important for you to basically just be unfiltered, you know, in your music? Let the heart open and let it come out, no matter the joy or the pain.
I tell you what, it's art. You know, you gotta let it do its thing. And I tell you what, when I get on stage and I close my eyes, you know, and I see it, I believe it, I can touch it, touch her, you know. And that's one of my other songs, is every time I close my eyes, I wear my emotions on my chest. I mean, I really do. Get that from my mother. Mm-hmm. Humility from my father, I guess.
I love it. Now talk about how "We Don't Sleep," you know, got in your hands, because I know, you know, popular songwriter, you know, wrote that one. How did that end up in your hands?
Well, the lovely Miss Jada Dreyer was a big writer on that song, and we've done a lot of stuff together, including horses. We both had a love of that, ironically, and we knew each other, you know, of each other growing up, and horse showing together. But we just filmed a behind the scenes of the video that we were going to release, which is for that "We Don't Sleep," which we're so excited. I tell you what, my director Brian Harstein, he's so pumped. I'm pumped too. I can't stand it. I can't wait to get it out. It's so cool. I wrote a treatment for it, and he took my ideas and made them come to life. I mean, when you can see that come to life, that just, it just sends chills down your spine. I was sitting there on just watching it, you know, on the camera, you know, just the little clippets while we were doing it, and I was like, wow, that's cool. And we did a shot by the pool in the back, and I picked the house. You know, I'm so instrumental. I love being a part of that creation. I saw this house, and I wanted to find cypress trees, Italian cypress trees, and they're so evident. You know, you see them around here, and I was like, God, I gotta capture LA. You know, how am I gonna do that in Nashville? So I ended up finding this house, and it had them all lined up in a row. You know, I just drove in there and knocked on their door, and they happened to be home, and we got to talking, and they said, you know what, we normally don't do that, but what the heck, we'll do it. I said, cool. And we shot it. We did a 2-day shoot, and man, it was a lot of work, but it was so rewarding when we got done. So rewarding. But the pool scene was cool. We did that in the backyard, and then we did another shot at the Urban Cowboy. Ironically, you know, but it was very cool, abstract, you know, imagery. But it tied it all together. It looks like one location, you know. But that was the interior shots was at the Urban Cowboy, and the exterior shots were at the house. So, yeah.
That's great stuff. Now, obviously, you know, the demands of being on the road a lot. You know, obviously, getting this music out to the people is what it's all about. You know, how do you, you know, pace yourself with the demands of, you know, what's to come as far as constantly being traveling and, you know, I know the payoff is obviously the performance, but how do you kind of mentally and physically prepare yourself for the demands of not seeing home too much?
Well, it's been a gradual, you know, increase in activity as far as everything. I mean, looking back when we started, we didn't have that much going on, and we're like, wow, look at what we're doing right now, and we're constantly building that. So it's not like a drastic change of, oh my gosh, here we are, it's just night and day. It's not. It's just a gradual of what we've accomplished, and we're looking back, we're like, wow, look what we're doing now, and look what we were doing then, and it's just a little bit more each time. And I don't think too much about it. I just do what I got to do for that day or that week and make sure I'm prepared.
Well, I'm sure it's an honor in a lot of ways to be able to bring this art, you know, to the people and hopefully give them that little bit of joy or excitement, you know, for the day, and hopefully it spreads. So it's, you know, it's definitely a lot of work, but the payoff comes in many ways.
Yeah, I'll just be glad when I get my album out and the message is clear to my fans of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting to see that, you know.
Yeah.
What happens.
And when you perform, I'm sure a lot of this is natural, but obviously you kind of glean stuff from a lot of other performers out there. Who are some of the modern day artists that you look up to as far as their live concert ability that you can kind of draw from?
Dean Martin.
The Rat Pack?
The King of Cool. I mean, he's been an inspiration. Well, I think the next album, when I get the opportunity to really sit down, it'll have a lot of that influence more evident. Right now, I've got a girl I want to, you know, I want to get her attention, so I'm doing it through my music.
That's great. Well, there was something about that era. Every time I go to Vegas, I kind of reminisce about Sinatra and Martin and Sammy Davis and all the, you know, the Rat Packers out there. And I had the opportunity to interview Wayne Newton recently, and
he kissed my mom once.
Wayne's been headlining in Vegas since he was 15 years old, over 30,000 shows. So.
Yeah, my dad was like, I don't think he appreciated it, but yeah, she was out and seen one of his shows, and he just kissed her right there.
Okay. I'm sure it was warranted.
The guys in the audience were like, is that your wife? It's like, yeah. Can you say Wayne Newton?
You know, you can kind of get lost in the music. Wayne told me an Elvis story, which, if I can share with you real quick, he obviously, you know, knew of Elvis. He was already a headliner in Vegas, and he's on an airplane going somewhere, and he's in the, whatever it was, he didn't see the person sitting down next to him. He was lost in listening to some music or reading a book or whatever, but he hears this voice, and this gentleman next to him says, "Wayne?" And he looks up, and it's Elvis Presley sitting next to him. and he said, "Do you know a girl named such and such?" And he said, "Yeah, matter of fact, I'm dating her." And Elvis said, "So am I." That was Wayne's introduction to me and Elvis. Is that so? Kissing your mom goes around. It comes with the music, I guess. But yeah, no, it's always
everybody's
special.
dating somebody.
Makes the world go round. Now, what you've seen so far in your career, and I know you're a smart guy, you know, absorbing a lot. What advice do you have to the young singers, the young songwriters, the young artists coming up today? It's kind of a different world, but, you know, when it comes down to it, what are the most basic principles that they need to focus on?
Learn your craft, whatever it is, whatever you're good at, just build on it. Do what you feel. Be real. I mean, everybody has, you know, be a leader, not a follower. I mean, but you gotta have, you know, inspiration. You gotta, and it's taken me a long time to figure out who I am. You know, I've gotten to where I don't even watch TV right now. I don't want the distraction. I mean, I keep up on my phone. Everybody has a cell phone and can get online and Google anything. I think a lot of it's just because I got tired of the phone bill and I wasn't home enough to enjoy it. But as far as just giving advice, I mean, I wear my emotions on my chest. It could be a good thing or a bad thing. And just, yeah, learn your craft.
So love what you do and get better at it every day.
Yeah, I mean, I got a girl in my mind right now, so I mean that's definitely leading me in a lot of ways that maybe would be differently. Of course, everybody's got, you know, something that they're after, you know. Just find out what that is. And I got to the point where I just didn't care no more. I cared, but it wasn't about, you know, the fame. It wasn't about the incentive. It's about expressing myself. You know, if you can just find how to express yourself and just be real and just be you. I know that's general, but I already told you what I'm feeling, and it's evident in my music. So,
well, Denny, it's a real pleasure. Can't wait to hear the full album and see you live. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Jay.
And I know we're about to hear We Don't Sleep. Thanks so much for coming out.
Thank you for having me.